Not very scientifically, the Quran in 2189 describes the purpose of the moon as measurements for time, where it says, "They ask you, O Muhammad, about the new moons. Say, they are measurements of time for the people and for Hajj." Al-Hillah is the word for new moons, circled in red. It is the plural for Hilal, which means crescent moon. From the Quran's purpose of the moon being a measurement for time comes the Islamic Hijri calendar. It is lunar-based and constructed on a year of 12 months. Each month begins approximately at the time of the new moon and are alternately 30 and 29 days long except for the 12th month, the length of which is varied in a 30-year cycle, intended to keep the calendar in line with the true phases of the moon. In 11 years of this cycle, the 12th month Dhul Hijjah has 30 days, and in the other 19 years it has 29. The Quran in 936-37 forbids the periodic insertion of a 13th month to keep it in line with the solar year. Hence, the Islamic calendar travels backward through the solar calendar about 11 days per year. Thus, 33 lunar years will equal 32 solar years, as the Islamic calendar has either 354 or 355 days per year. The days are reckoned from the hijrah or migration, from which the calendar derives its name from, the date of Muhammad's migration in 622 AD from Mecca to Medina. Currently, it is the year 1443 of the Islamic calendar. Although the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar, the earliest use of a lunar calendar dates back to the Sumerians as far back as 2100 BC. It consisted of 12 lunar cycles, which were rounded up to 360, forming 12 months at 30 days. What differentiated the Sumerian calendar system from other lunar calendars was the way they measured time. The Sumerian calculations were heavily based on the numbers 6, 12, and 60. It is still used today in telling time and measuring degrees within circles. For example, it is from the Sumerians that the current year has 12 months, and the day is structured as 12 hours, AM and PM. The hour itself has 60 minutes, and every minute has 60 seconds. Just as in the Islamic calendar and measurement for the day, the Sumerian calendar month started at sunset with the first sighting of the new crescent moon and ended with the last sighting of the descending crescent. The calendar and the moon played a big part when they planned travelling, especially crossing a desert, because due to the hot climate, caravans preferred to travel at night. But with no moonlight to guide them, there was a great chance of getting lost. Therefore, the calculation from their calendar and the moon became a source of determining when to stay at home and rest or travel, amongst other activities. There's a concept that is still used today that people and cultures follow called living with the moon. The living with the moon diet dates back as far as Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine. In order to illustrate that the Quran and Islam came with nothing new, the moon-month connection exists and has existed for thousands of years. The English term month comes from the word moon. It derives due to its measurement of time. It comes from the Old English mona, which is of Germanic origin, related to the Dutch man and the German mond, from which the English word Monday or Moonday comes from. All this comes from an Indo-European root shared by Latin mensis and the Greek men for month, and also Latin meteri, which means to measure, as the moon was used to measure time. Similarly, the Arabic word for month is shahr, which comes from the Semitic root, namely from the Aramaic word for moon, shahr. In Old Arabian or pre-Islamic, shahr came to mean beginning of the lunar month, which the Islamic period later adopted. Incidentally, for thousands of years before that, Shahr was the god of dawn in the pantheon of Ugarit. The name is a cognate of the Hebrew word Shahr, meaning dawn. Dawn is a time when the moon gives way to the appearance of the sun. Within Arabia, the moon gives solace and comfort from the blazing sun, so it was seen more favorably than the sun. Now to some of the physical aspects of the moon. At night, the moon appears to glow as seen in this picture. So within ancient cosmology, whose understanding of the cosmos was limited compared to today's standards, they believed that the moon had its own luminosity and gave its own light, similar to how the sun has its own light. However, it is known and accepted today that the moon does not produce its own light. Moonlight is actually sunlight that shines on the moon and reflects off it, as this picture shows. There is a term called earthshine. This is the visible earth light reflected from the moon's night side, which appears to glow faintly, and the entire disk of the moon is dimly illuminated. It is also known as the moon's ashen glow. The light that is reflected from the earth to the moon and back to earth is earthshine. Leonardo da Vinci explained the phenomenon in the early 16th century when he realized that both moon and the earth reflect sunlight at the same time. Here is Leonardo da Vinci's sketch of the crescent moon with earthshine as part of his codex written between 1506 and 1510. Despite the science and what is accepted today, the Quran gives the impression of the ancient understanding of the cosmos in that the moon has its own light. For example, Quran 10:5 says, It is who appointed the sun glow and the moon a light. The Arabic word nur means light. It is circled in red here. Again in Quran 71:16 it repeats the same motif, and has made the moon a light therein, and made the sun a lamp. To truly understand the meaning of the aforementioned verses, on Quran 10:5, early commentaries such as Tafsir Ibn Abbas say it means, He Allah, it is who appointed the sun bright for mankind during the daytime, and the moon a light for them at night. At-Tabari says, He Allah is the one who made the sun bright and the moon as light. Even later commentaries such as Tafsir Jalalain, first composed in 1459 and completed in 1505, say it means, it is who made the sun a radiance that is emitting light and the moon a light. Ibn Kathir on Quran 71:16 says, He made a distinction between them, the sun and the moon, in reference to their lighting. He made each one of them in a set manner with a distinct quality, so that the night and day may be known. They, the night and the day, are known by the rising and setting of the sun. He also determined fixed stations and positions for the moon, and he made its light vary so that sometimes it increases until it reaches a maximum, then it begins to decrease until it is completely veiled. This shows the passing of months and years. So all these renowned Muslim commentaries understood for the aforementioned Quranic verses that the moon has its own source of light, instead of it being reflected light as it is currently explained by modern commentaries. Despite what the Quran says, and some of the major commentaries, some modern-day apologists, either intentionally or otherwise, propagate the false notion that the Quran correctly predicts the light of the moon is reflected light. The link to the 2-minute video is below in the description. As already evidenced, the term nur means light, although it is incorrectly translated as reflected light by modern Quran translators when it is connected to the moon. Incidentally, the Arabic word for reflection is in'ikas, which does not appear in the 2 Quranic verses. Instead, it clearly says the moon is a light. This is because the word nur is used, which simply means light. If Quran translators say nur means reflected light, then Quran 24:35 describes Allah as light, nur, circled in red. This means the verse should be translated as Allah is reflected light. Instead, what is found is that Quran translators translate this verse as Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth, as opposed to Allah is the reflected light of the heavens and the earth, although the same word nur is used here also. In another verse, the word munir is used, circled in red below. It means giving light, shining, luminosity, bright. What it does not mean is derived light when connected to the moon, as it is incorrectly translated or claimed by some apologists. The term is from the same root as nur, light. For example, Quran 25:61 says, "Glorious is the one who made stellar formations in the sky and placed therein a lamp and a bright moon." The term siraj, lamp, refers to the sun here. This is inferred from Quran 71:15-16, where it specifically describes the sun as a lamp. Here is one of the dictionary definitions of the word munir. Notice it does not translate it as reflective light. The Quran in 33:45-46 describes Muhammad as a lamp illuminating, sirajan muniran, here highlighted in red. O Prophet, we have sent you as a witness and a deliverer of good news and a warner and a caller to the way of Allah by His command, and as a lamp illuminating. Here siraj, lamp, and the adjective munir, illuminating, are used together for the same shining object, Muhammad. Notice munir is not translated as reflective light, as he, Muhammad, is a lamp shining of his own accord, according to this verse. If translators and apologists insist that the Arabic words nur and munir in reference to the moon imply reflected light, as in Quran 10:5 and 71:15-16, and derived light for Quran 25:61, then for consistency when the same word nur is connected to Allah in Quran 24:35, it should mean Allah is also reflected light, just like the moon. The implication of this is that it will make Muhammad like the sun in that he is called Siraj, lamp, according to Quran chapter 33. So Muhammad has his own light and is the source of light, whereas Allah is his reflection. This is obviously blasphemous. The verse above also describes Muhammad as Munir, and according to apologists, this term can also mean derived light when connection to Quran 25:61, where the moon is described as Munir. So this would be an internal contradiction in that Muhammad is a light in himself, Siraj, and also derived light, Munir. The picture that is emerging here is that modern Muslim scholars, in order to relate the Quran to modern science, have sometimes dishonestly argued that the Quran predicted the realization that the moon does not emit its own light, but simply reflects the light coming from the sun, that this is a miracle and proves the Quran as divine. Although this claim is not true on both counts as already seen, the Quran does not say the moon is reflected light from the sun. In fact, the Quran says it is a light source in of itself, which is scientifically inaccurate. And even if the Quran did, although it does not prove the Quran is divine, because more than 1,000 years earlier, Greek philosopher Anaxagoras determined the moon did not have its own luminosity, as he correctly postulated that it was reflected from the sun. So in conclusion, the Quran describes the purpose of the moon as measurements for time. From this derives the Islamic calendar, which is lunar based. Long before Islam, however, the Sumerian calendar was also lunar based. Their measurement, telling of time and purpose mirrors that of the later Islamic calendar. However, theirs was far more influential, going on to influence later cultures. Even today, many aspects of it are used till modern times. As the moon appears to glow at night, within ancient cosmology, they believed that the moon had its own luminosity and gave its own light, similar to how the sun has its own light. It is known today that the moon does not produce its own light. Moonlight is actually sunlight that shines on the moon. Leonardo da Vinci explained the phenomenon earthshine in the early 16th century when he realized that both moon and the earth reflect sunlight at the same time. The Quran gives the impression of the ancient understanding that the moon has its own light. This was corroborated by early Quran commentators. Only later commentators and modern-day apologists and their associated translators incorrectly assert words like nur means reflected light and murir means derived light, but only when it is connected to the moon. But when these words are connected to Allah, nur is translated as light, and when murir is connected to Muhammad, it is not translated as derived light. If they are consistent, then according to the Quran, it will make Muhammad as a source of light, with Allah as his reflection. This is obviously blasphemous. Greek philosopher Anaxagoras determined the moon did not have its own luminosity. Instead, it was reflected from the sun. This was over 1,000 years before Muhammad or the Quran.